Salute, salute, salute. I wanted to do a story about black soldiers during the Civil War
During the Civil War?
because there's people who know history about our brothers who were brave and they understood the consequences, but I don't think a lot of people dig that deep into what the consequences were and just how brave they were to face those consequences. For instance, there were a lot of freedmen that joined the army. Wasn't just, a lot of people doing to put it out there that they were just slaves signing up fighting for their freedom. No, there were freedmen. It wasn't just slaves. See, we have to stop this idea that everybody that was over here in the north were enslaved or were slaves. No, you had freedmen as black men over here also, right? Your history over here didn't start with slavery. You always been over here, right? But we're not going to get that far into it. What I'm going to say is the freemen that signed up for the army, right? They understood that the Confederates threatened them. That's how they feared them. They feared black men being in the Navy and the Army. And they feared them to the point where they told them, hey, listen, the Confederate Congress threatened to punish officers of black troops with enslavement. Meaning, if you get caught, you're going to a plantation. Black soldiers and their officers were in grave danger if they were captured in battle. You see, if you were captured in battle, there was an understanding between the South and the North to keep soldiers, right? They'd just be prisoners of war. Unless rations were low. Then they would starve them to death. Right? But that was rare. But if you was a black soldier and you got caught, no. It's enslavement or just brutality until you pass. Now that wasn't all the that wasn't the case all the time when it came to the North and the South, the Union and the Confederate. Especially with the part of the Confederate that decided to leave the Confederacy but to become a militia so they can do egregious things outside of the army, right? But we're not focusing on that, right? We're going to focus on the black soldiers. It was approximately 180,000 African Americans that served in the Union Army and 18,000 in the Union Navy between 1863 and 1865. They fought in infantry, artillery, and cavalry units. Black soldiers were segregated into their own regiments, commanded by white officers, despite facing discrimination and often being assigned to non-combat roles. They distinguished themselves in battle. For example, the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, the first black regiment raised in the North, led an assault against Fort Wagner, which guarded Charleston, South Carolina's harbor. Black soldiers also served as cooks, laborers, teamsters, and performed other essential support duties. Their impact on war was their involvement in the war ensured the end of slavery in the United States and the preservation of the Union. Black soldiers' bravery and sacrifice helped to win the war and paved the way for the abolition of slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Lincoln in 1863, allowed black men to serve in the Union Army, and it also had a significant impact on war effort. Now, post-war, after the war, many black soldiers and veterans cooperated with the Freedmen's Bureau, created in 1865, with help with education, employment, and overall transition of newly freed slaves in society. Black soldiers continued to serve in the military, and in 1866, 6 regiments of African descent soldiers were established in the regular army. The challenges that they faced, the black soldiers faced discrimination and prejudice, both within the Union Army and from the Confederate Army. They were often relegated to non-combat positions and received less pay and worse treatment than their white counterparts. Following the spring, the Confederate Congress passed a law that allowed the death penalty for white officers of black units and provided for captured black soldiers to be returned to slavery, right? So what I'm saying here is that they faced a more severe challenge. Even the white officers that were in charge. The Confederate Congress passed a law that allowed the death penalty for white officers if you was in charge of a black unit. And you got to understand, for a slave that was in uniform and he was fighting to get captured and sent back, and to think if you've never been a slave before and you get captured, you're going to have a harder time. That black freedman will have a harder time than that slave that's already on a plantation, because he understands what needs to be done there in order to survive. His spirit has been broken a long time ago, but he gained this spirit back by getting into the army and fighting, and now they're going to have to re-break him. So those are the things that were happening with our brothers, and I'm doing this video to salute them, to salute our brothers that fought for our freedom, that fought for their freedom. They fought for not just for them, they fought for their families. Whether you was a freedman, whether they were freedmen or they were, ex-slaves, they fought for a better future. And the future that is now, this is what they fought for you to be able to do what you felt like doing. And when I mean felt like doing, you didn't have to wake up, get on a plantation, you could walk with your head high. You don't have to suffer indignations. You don't have to do any of these things because of brothers like this that went out there on the front line for us. And I just want to salute them. I want to salute these brothers. And, we got to start thinking more about the brothers of the past. I did a video a while back, right? And I started focusing on brothers from the past, especially around that time. And one of my favorite characters, right? Not characters, heroes, excuse me. One of my favorite heroes is a politician by the name of Tunis Campbell. And Tunis Campbell was the highest ranking and most influential African American politician in the 19th century in Georgia. I did a video about him. Look him up. Tunis Campbell. Tuins Campbell, right? He was born in 1812, died December 4th, 1891. And we have to look back and look at our brothers from the past, and you have to talk about how great they were, because under the circumstances that they were under, and they still made things happen. It's just miraculous. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. And the unity back then. The unity back then. This is what I'm trying to get brothers back to. The unity, the understanding that nothing can happen without us supporting each other. We have to support each other. We have to look out for each other. And we got to respect the brothers before us that paved the way. And you can't be taking your freedoms, your liberties for granted, because this is what these brothers were out here fighting for. You have to wake up every day and look at what you got going on and look what you have. And a lot of you brothers are successful, but you never look back at the brothers who, put their lives on the line and risk their lives and for you. They weren't just thinking of them. They were thinking for black people, black men in the future, generations, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. They were thinking about you. A better tomorrow. That's what they were thinking about. And I just want to salute these brothers. Peace.